the voice of the podcast Love to Heal, a journey of self-discovery, healing, and spiritual growth. Welcome back to episode 6 of Love to Heal. By now, I truly hope that your view of our world has shifted, that perhaps you've tried to apply some of the techniques I've suggested to your life, and that you've seen some positive results. If you haven't yet noticed anything miraculous or drastic happen, don't fret. Spirituality is not an overnight solution by any means. It takes time, but trust me, it's so worth it. If you've started on this journey, your life will never be the same. But do be patient. Recognize that unlearning is the highest form of learning, said Rumi, the great Sufi mystic and poet. If you're listening to me, you're probably an adult, which means that you have a whole lifetime worth of unlearning to do. I don't know about you, but I grew up not knowing anything about spirituality, the divine will, God, none of that. What I did learn was that our world is a dangerous, tricky place, that money is dirty, that love is conditional, that resources are scarce, and many other useless ideas that I'm still unlearning. To change our subconscious level takes hard work. It takes time, but it will surely make you free. Once you let go of those old misconceptions and learn to live by way of love, your life is bound to improve in all facets. Today, I'd like to address a fundamental principle for spiritual growth. It is the first and foremost agreement in Don Miguel Ruiz's book called The 4 Agreements. And the first agreement is to be impeccable with your word. And this is because the word is your power of creation. You can either choose to create a beautiful story, a personal heaven on earth, or you can choose to misuse the word and create a personal hell. The word is powerful in many ways. The word is the origin of life. As it's stated in the Bible, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The Word is the force by which our intent manifests. The Word can reproduce an image, a feeling, even an entire story in our imagination. As the writer and metaphysicist Connie Mendes used to say, it's not what enters the mouth that contaminates the human being, rather that which comes out of the mouth, since it is what comes from the heart. Each word that we pronounce is a decree. It will manifest in us, no matter if it's positive or negative. Furthermore, words have energy. Even the unspoken words carry a vibration that can impact us and the world around us. Words have the power to heal and to hurt. And it is up to us to choose which kind of words will create our reality. When you're speaking to yourself in your thoughts, are you using the word for self-judgment or self-rejection? If you ever think to yourself that you're not good enough or strong enough, that you're ugly or dumb, then you're using the word against yourself. If you get angry and then use the word to send emotional poison to someone else, you're really poisoning yourself. In addition, spoken words can carry either high or low vibrations. In order to fuel our reality with high vibration, we must become conscious of our speech. We need to learn to swap out low vibration words and phrases of irritation, for example, for high vibration words of love and care. A common example of words that we unconsciously utilize on a daily basis is, "I'm sorry." This phrase comes out automatically when we bump into someone or we did something wrong. This is because we grew up hearing it around us and around our parents, and they taught us to say it to be polite. However, this often overused phrase actually is one of low vibration because it stems from the energy of lack, of doing something wrong and not being good enough. Women especially use the phrase "I'm sorry" as a habit. How many times have you heard someone say, "I'm sorry my car or my house is a mess. I'm sorry the dinner didn't turn out as well as I had hoped. I'm sorry for taking so long." And on go these examples of habitual subconscious apologies, which make the person speaking these words feel and look smaller. You're probably anxious to hear the alternative for this low vibration phrase, and I'm happy to share it with you. Believe it or not, gratitude is going to save the day here. Try to replace "I'm sorry" with "thank you." Let's give it a try. Instead of saying, "I'm sorry my house is a mess," let's try saying, "Thank you for understanding that I have a lot going on and my house hasn't been at the top of the list." Okay, that's one option. Instead of saying, "I'm sorry the dinner didn't turn out very well," let's say, "Thank you for tasting the dinner I prepared. It will be much better next time." And of course, feel free to use humor, by the way, in any of these situations. Just keep it positive. And instead of saying, "I'm sorry for taking so long," we can say, "I know I'm taking a long time. Thank you for your patience. I truly appreciate it." Voila! You've just completed a magic trick, turning what would have been a low vibration phrase, causing negative emotions to surge in the speaker and spread to the listener, into a high vibration phrase that will reinforce self-love, which will be contagious in a good way to the listener. You know how some people just radiate positive energy, and when you're around them, it seems to rub off on you? Well, you can become that person by choosing your words carefully, by being impeccable with your word. Think about it. When you needlessly say "I'm sorry," you're seeking affirmation and energy from the other individual, in which case you're giving away your own power. When instead you say "thank you," you're actually honoring yourself and the other person. You are accepting yourself for not being perfect and choosing to be gentle on yourself. So now I'd like you to start to practice consciousness by asking yourself the following. What negative words are you saying to yourself most? Are you critical of your body? Are you critical of your intelligence or success? Do you habitually use general expressions like, "Oh, how stupid of me. I'm an idiot. How terrible. I hate that something something"? Do the words that you're using feel nourishing or toxic? How does a word feel to you? Does it feel heavy or light? Dark or light? Take the words hot and cold, for instance. When I say hot, I imagine a reddish color and a particular feeling, right? When I say the word cold, I picture a bluish color, and the feeling is different from its counterpart. Or take the words love and hate. Love vibrates at a much higher frequency than the word hate, and it's bound to make you feel better and attract good energy, because positive words actually raise your vibration frequency. So, you can start your word diet right now, and you will never be the same again. You will be creating a much happier life for yourself and even those around you. Listen to your words and take note of your thoughts. The moment you notice poisonous words come up, replace them immediately with healing ones. Instead of, I hate that something something, I can say, I don't love it. Notice that the main word here is still love. And that's what the universe hears. Look for positive words to replace all negative ones everywhere. Make it a game. Make it fun. Shift your perspective away from judging yourself and others toward acceptance and presence. Rewiring our brain to use particular words and avoid others is going to take perseverance and patience. But again, it's so worth it. Words are pure magic, and you have the power to create a new reality for yourself. So do it. Something that I need to remind you of, though, if you do notice an abundance of negative or low vibration words in your daily talk, stop to ask yourself why that is. From a spiritual perspective, the root cause of negativity is related to the lack of love in the soul. In other words, it's a disbelief in God and in the divine will that is causing this negativity to come up. Cursing, for example, is a manifestation of aggression. Would you agree that a person with inner peace and calm has no reason to curse? I think so. We typically curse when we're angry. And wouldn't you say that the way we feel when we curse is very different from when we speak kind words? Curse words are charged with heavy, low vibrations, which, by saying them, can put us in or prolong our bad mood and internalize aggression, causing even more stress. In short, try to avoid cursing. However, there does exist an interesting aspect on cursing that I'd like to mention. When you do find yourself in an extremely stressful situation in which you feel you want to punch somebody, it's actually better in this case to swear and channel your anger through these words rather than keeping it all inside or burying the feeling deep down. Some therapists recommend screaming into a pillow if you get a chance to do that, or even breaking a plate or two, because this helps for the desire to hurt someone disintegrate into muscle and sound action. So in this case, it is better to curse than let the aggression stay inside. But if you're just going about your daily life, there really shouldn't be a need to curse. Now, when it comes to talking to yourself, hopefully just in your head, if you notice yourself judging yourself and using defeatist words, repeat to your ego over and over again, if necessary, that you are a part of God. You are perfect in the moment you exist. You are the way you are for a reason. You can always improve, but do this kindly. Become your own cheerleader. When you look in the mirror, tell yourself you love every inch of your body. Compliment yourself first before you say or think that you can be even better. or look better. Always treat yourself with love and respect because you were given this body and this mind by the Creator. Your body is a vessel for your soul, which is divine. We are made of love, which is infinite. The path to unity with God is revelation of God in ourselves through changes in our character and behavior. True optimism is only possible when there's a belief in God. As Sergei Lazarev writes in his book, Diagnostics of Karma, everything that surrounds us has an effect on us. Houseware, books, films, everything that we come in contact with has informational energy fields that interact with the human field structures. He notes that there has been an increase of subconscious aggression in the informational fields of Earth. Strategic resources of spirituality have been mostly spent, and every day life keeps adding new portions of aggression. The high level of aggression is especially notable in Western mass art, based on principles of competition and the propaganda of strength. Just think about all the action movies that have been coming out of the United States for decades that are all built on fighting, competition, and abuse that often include aggressive language and gruesome scenes. Just think of what kind of subconscious messages these movies and cartoons send. Take, for instance, the seemingly innocent cartoon, a classic cartoon, Tom and Jerry. Its intent may have been simply to entertain, but in reality, it possesses measurable subconscious aggression that spreads to the viewer and is internalized for long periods of time. Especially susceptible are the kids that nowadays start at an extremely young age to watch TV and play games that make fighting a norm. Seeing cartoon characters repeatedly beat each other up in creative ways can in no way be healthy for neither kids or adults. When I was a teenager, I used to love scary movies. I would cuddle up next to a friend so as to be protected when an especially scary scene came up. It seemed fun at the time, except that years later, I would still have nightmares and fear the dark due to all the horror movies that left their imprint on my imagination and made their way into my subconscious. When I was older, I learned just how harmful to our health it can be when we're scared. As if we didn't have enough stressors in our lives, we go ahead and add more artificial ones. Horror movies can give people psychosis and lead to heart attacks. Horror triggers the fight or flight response, leading to anxiety and fear, which in return weaken the immune system and may cause other types of harm to your overall health. Most importantly, from the spiritual perspective, when we watch or read scary content, we internalize it. You may not notice any changes instantly, but don't be surprised if issues surface unexpectedly at a later time. This is why so many health practitioners and spiritual healers recommend limiting the intake of news, or even staying away from news altogether. We live in a time when we are literally bombarded with news and headlines on TV, radio, newspapers, social media, and all kinds of apps, causing constant information overload. And this information is of low energy, low vibration. It's a lot of negativity. If we know that words carry vibration, then you can only imagine what kind of energy we receive when we watch the news, which are almost never positive. If we wish to take care of our health, we must limit our consumption of news, which nowadays is often fake anyway, There's no need to add more stress to our lives. In addition to our subconscious taking on the negativity of the news, we're also consciously likely to react to the seen or heard information. I bet when you see on TV images of war, disease, or natural disasters, you can't help but say to yourself, "That's terrible, what a nightmare," or something along those lines. Repeatedly saying these low vibration phrases will start to create your own reality, attracting into your life all kinds of new stresses or unfortunate events. As Connie Mendes writes in her book Metaphysics 4 and 1, each word that you pronounce is a decree that manifests on the exterior. The word is the spoken thought. Don't be surprised and don't complain if when you vocalize it, you see it happen. You've decreed it. Now think about the music you listen to. Do you listen to happy songs, romantic songs, or do you listen to heavy metal or grunge music, music with screaming or cussing? How does particular music make you feel? I remember when I was a teenager, I, like many teens, went through a phase of aggression and anger at the world. I remember not being understood by my peers or my parents and wanting to rebel. Naturally, I searched out types of music that reflected my inner state of being. So I listened to some hard rock and heavy metal, which made me even more angry at the world. If only I'd had God back then to rely on, to confide in, that period of my life would have been very different, I'm sure. Easier. And do you know why so many teenagers suffer from acne? According to Lois Hay, pimples are outbursts of anger. Instead of listening to calming music, practicing meditation and prayer, teenagers often turn to drugs, music with negative messages, and other bad habits. And all this happens because many of us are not brought up in spiritual families. I know I wasn't. I'm trying to bring up my kids right now in a spiritual way to teach them about universal love, set their priorities straight, and provide to them the spiritual backbone that they will need to lead healthy, happy lives. But even so, my 6-year-old son is already asking me to play songs for him on Spotify that he'd heard somewhere that include bad words, brainwashing of sorts, they diffuse fear. Popular games like Among Us and Rainbow Friends are all about murdering, escaping death, and monsters. I just don't understand how this has become the norm. Why do our kids need to suffer from anxiety and aggression? And if I don't allow my son to play or watch these games, he says that his school friends will not play with him. If only parents understood how detrimental to our kids' physical and mental health all these aggressive games and songs can be. I know my job is to put my kids on the spiritual path in hopes that they will never feel lonely or lack love, that they will use love first and foremost to resolve any and all issues in their lives. On a happier note, I also would like to mention the power of words when it comes to blessing over the food. This is something that I'm still working on, implementing into my daily life, but that I highly recommend. There are different ways to bless the food before you eat, but the idea behind this ritual is to first of all cleanse or purify the food, literally, and second, to acknowledge the gift of food from the divine and ask that by eating we support our highest purpose and intention, that is, to know ourselves and all the universe as an expression of divine consciousness. Believe it or not, scientific studies have been conducted that identify unique bactericidal properties that appear in water from its consecration with prayer. In other words, when we bless our food, the number of harmful bacteria decreases by more than 1,000 times. Isn't that amazing? So, the next time you sit down to eat, slow yourself down and try saying a prayer over your food before it touches your lips. For example, you can say something along the lines of, "Thank you, God," or "Thank you, universe, for this food. Bless this food. Nourish our bodies, hearts, and souls." Many years ago, when I found the practice of yoga, I learned many techniques for calming my mind and connecting with my higher self. Since in this episode I'm talking about words and their power, I can't not mention one of the most important words for spiritual yoga practice. Om. It's the simplest sound that represents the whole universe, coalesced into a single word, uniting the mind, body, and spirit. Om is a Sanskrit word and ancient mantra that is typically chanted 3 times at the start and finish of a yoga session. Om is described as the first sound from the beginning of time, which it also encompasses the present and future. In Hindu tradition, Om is connected to the chakra that is the third eye chakra and represents intuition and self-knowledge. I remember chanting Om for the first time in a group yoga class. It remains, honestly, one of my most special spiritual memories because when you feel the vibration of the group's voices unified, you become one with the rest. This is like a taste of being one with the universe. You lose your own voice among those of your classmates, and you feel a part of something bigger, something magnificent and magical. Chanting mantras can be very healing and calming. Scientists have researched the effects of the vibrations of chanting mantras on the brain. They've proven that chanting Om provides beneficial changes in the autonomic nervous system and the activation of limbic brain regions. This is an area that controls emotions, memories, and arousal. In lay terms, chanting mantras is wonderful for relaxation and is used to treat depression and even epilepsy. Finally, I'd like to address the importance of using the word love as much as we can. Growing up in Russia, I heard this word very seldom. I don't know why that is, but love is not a word you hear often in the Russian language when it comes to relationships and expressing your feelings. You'll hear people talk about love in a certain food or hobby, but when it comes to people, not so much. So, unlike here in the States, where I hear people say, "Love you, bye," when they hang up on the phone 5 times a day or before going to bed, I had never heard my parents say that they love me. Never had, never have, to this present day. And this is true of most Russians. I've asked around. Despite never hearing that my parents love me, I never for a moment doubted their love for me. However, I feel like the lack of hearing the words "I love you" did form me into the adult that I am today. And let me tell you, it hasn't been easy for me to express myself using the word love. It's just not a habit for me. It doesn't feel natural. I have to think about it. I have to make myself say these words. Even my husband mentioned to me once that I'm rarely the first one to say "I love you" to him. I absolutely feel it, and I feel like I say it in my head. I just don't pronounce these words for some reason. It's hard for them to come out of my mouth. And when I do say it, I normally say I love you in English because it's just easier and somehow it sounds better. This is something that I've been working on constantly, telling my kids, especially when they go to bed, that I love them, because I don't want them to grow up with the same awkward attitude towards the word love. And since love heals and the word love vibrates at a high frequency, I hope that every one of you will find a way to utilize it every single day, even if you only say it to yourself, which is equally important. So, to conclude, I don't know about you, but realizing how powerful words are made me think twice about what I say and what I listen to. The choice is once again ours. We can choose to surround ourselves with love. We can choose to create a loving reality by being impeccable with our word, and by choosing carefully what information enters our ears and settles in our subconscious. So choose wisely. Today, I would like to leave you with a quote by Betty Eadie, an American author of books on near-death experiences. I thank you for listening, and until next week. If we understood the power of our thoughts, we would guard them more closely. If we understood the awesome power of our words, we would prefer silence to almost anything negative. In our thoughts and words, we create our own weaknesses and our own strengths. Our limitations and joys begin in our hearts. We can always replace negative with positive.